What? You didn't see the resort booking in our family chat? My sister Amber's voice practically exploded through my phone speaker. I just posted Oceanview rooms booked. Perfect surprise for mom and dad's anniversary. I tagged everyone. Her words dripped with mock surprise that felt like acid in my ears. We're all heading to that luxury Florida resort next month, mom, dad, me, and Ethan. Someone needs to watch Molly and Cooper while we're gone though. Mom said she'd definitely ask you. I collapsed into my kitchen chair, still wearing my scrubs after a brutal 12-hour night shift. My fingers clutched my coffee mug so tightly I could feel my knuckles turning white. My name is Vanessa Crawford, and at 38, I just discovered my entire family had planned another luxury vacation without even considering including me. The betrayal stung like alcohol on an open wound, especially finding out by accident during what was supposed to be a quick call about my parents' anniversary gift options. No, Amber. Mom hasn't mentioned anything about Florida, I replied, my voice wavering despite my best efforts to sound unmoved. Or about watching her dogs. I felt a knot forming in my throat as I struggled to maintain my composure. Well, you know how Diana is. Amber's laughter rang with casual cruelty. She probably forgot between her gardening club and volunteer meetings. But you're not busy anyway, right? It's not like you take actual vacations. She paused just long enough for the dig to sink in. You can totally watch Molly and Cooper for the week. Mom was counting on you since you're the only one not going. The clinic can survive without you for a few dog-sitting days. The only one not going because they hadn't bothered to invite me. A familiar hollow feeling spread through my chest as I recalled all the Sunday dinners where they must have discussed this trip, their voices dropping to whispers whenever I approached. The suspicious way Mom had been questioning me about my upcoming work schedule suddenly made perfect sense. Even Dad's unusual interest in whether I was seeing anyone special these days clicked into place. They were hoping I'd have weekend plans that wouldn't interfere with their dog-sitting needs. Later that evening, my phone lit up with Mom's face. My stomach tightened as I answered. Vanessa, honey. Mom's voice had that syrupy quality it always took on when she wanted something. I've been meaning to talk to you. I need a teensy favor, actually, 2 favors. Let me guess, you need me to watch Molly and Cooper while you're all living it up at that Florida resort? I couldn't keep the bitterness from seeping into every word. My heart pounded as I finally acknowledged what they'd been hiding. Oh, Amber told you about our little getaway. Yes, it would be such a help, darling. And I also need you to take me to my checkup tomorrow. The doctor always explains things in such complicated terms. I need my nurse daughter to translate. She sighed dramatically. You know Molly gets terrible separation anxiety at the kennel, and Cooper needs his heart medication twice daily at exactly 12-hour intervals. We'll only be gone 8 days. I gripped the phone tighter as Mom rambled about flight times and resort amenities, gushing about the spa packages and sunset cruises. Not once did she acknowledge that they had excluded me from the family vacation. No, wish you could come, or even a half-hearted maybe next time. Instead, she detailed Cooper's special, organic food requirements and Molly's anxiety medication schedule as if these responsibilities were a privilege rather than confirmation that I was, once again, an afterthought. And those medications are so tricky. The timing has to be perfect. She continued without pausing for breath. So you'll do it, right? Her voice brightened, with absolute confidence in my compliance. Your father already canceled the kennel reservation, and Amber is beyond excited. She found this perfect resort, with private beach access and world-class restaurants. You know how she loves posting those Instagram-worthy vacation shots. Of course I did. My family had always operated this way, making decisions that directly impacted my life without bothering to consult me first. To them, I was dependable Vanessa, the responsible one who never complained, never refused, never disrupted their plans with her own inconvenient needs or desires. I felt the weight of their expectations crushing down on me like a physical pressure on my chest. I'll think about it, I said quietly, my finger already clicking on an email notification from international medical volunteers that had been sitting in my inbox for days. The pattern had started years ago when Amber was accepted to her prestigious private university. My parents threw an extravagant party, gourmet catering, champagne flowing freely, all their friends and relatives invited to celebrate their golden child's achievement. When I got accepted to community college a year earlier with a full academic scholarship to nursing school, they barely reacted beyond a distracted, "That's practical, dear." My acceptance letter remained on the refrigerator for exactly 48 hours before being replaced by Amber's summer social calendar. My sister had always been the family star. She was the vivacious one, the photogenic one, the one who could do absolutely no wrong. Even when she dropped out of university, after 2 years to find her authentic path in Europe, my parents supported her escapade enthusiastically, sending generous monthly allowances for what they proudly called her journey of self-discovery. Meanwhile, I worked 3 exhausting jobs through nursing school, graduated with highest honors, and built a respected career in healthcare, all of which earned me nothing but the dubious privilege of being the family's reliable safety net, an unpaid medical consultant. That evening, after my mom's call, I found myself staring at an email notification from international medical volunteers that had been sitting in my inbox for days. My heart raced as I opened it again. Urgent need, medical personnel, for Greek Islands refugee mission. The dates aligned perfectly with my family's Florida resort vacation, and they specifically requested nurses with my emergency care qualifications. My finger hovered over the confirm participation button as my phone vibrated with Instagram notifications from Amber. "Mama says you're being difficult about the dogs and her checkup." "Come on, Vanessa. Don't be so selfish. It's not like you ever use your vacation days for anything meaningful anyway. Plus, what would you even do with time off? You never go anywhere. That doesn't involve bedpans or bandages. Family first, priorities." The message stung like a slap across my face. I actually had 3 weeks of vacation time saved up. My family just assumed I never took time off because I had nothing worthwhile to do. They'd completely forgotten about the medical volunteer work I'd been doing for years, the work that had earned me recognition from international relief organizations. Another thing they dismissed as Vanessa's little volunteer hobby, just like they dismissed my community clinic initiatives and my hospital's Excellence in Nursing Award. My phone rang, Dad's face appearing on screen. I felt my stomach tighten as I answered. "Sweetheart, your mother's really upset," he said, his voice carrying that familiar defeated tone. "You know how Molly gets when strangers watch her. She barely touched her food last time at the sitters." The frustration I'd been suppressing for years finally erupted. "Did it ever occur to any of you to invite me on the trip?" I demanded, my voice trembling with emotion. The painful silence on the other end confirmed what I already knew. "Well," he hesitated, clearing his throat uncomfortably. "Amber mentioned you probably couldn't get time off from the clinic, and you know how your mother likes to handle these arrangements. Plus, Ethan already covered the deposit for their suite." "Right," I said, bitterness seeping through every word. "Just like she'd planned to attend my nursing school graduation. Oh wait, she didn't make it, because Amber's Instagram influencer workshop came up suddenly, and everyone had to support her big brand partnership instead." "That's not fair, Vanessa," Dad protested weakly. "Your sister's social media career was at a critical point. The family needed to show support during her professional breakthrough." I stared at my computer screen, at the urgent plea for medical volunteers to help refugee families in Greece. Something shifted inside me. 15 years of being the reliable one, the dutiful daughter, the ever-present nurse who would sacrifice her own needs for others. The weight of all those moments when my career and contributions were minimized crystallized into perfect clarity. "I'll let you know about Mom's appointment and the dogs tomorrow," I said firmly, then ended the call and clicked confirm participation on the medical mission application. The next morning, my phone was overflowing with messages. Mom had sent 6 texts escalating from subtle guilt trips to outright emotional manipulation. Amber had tagged me in 3 Instagram stories, each one featuring staged photos of Molly and Cooper with captions about abandonment and family loyalty. Even Dad, who typically avoided family conflicts, had sent a rambling email explaining why my Sudden selfishness was causing Mom's blood pressure to rise. I waited until after Mom's medical appointment to break the news. As expected, the doctor had pronounced her perfectly healthy, confirming what I already knew. She didn't need a nurse's expertise for a routine checkup. Afterward, we met Amber and Dad at their favorite cafe, where they were already excitedly discussing their resort vacation over health-conscious salads. I've made arrangements for something important during those dates, I announced during a lull in their conversation. You'll need to find someone else to watch Molly and Cooper and handle Mom's medications. Mom's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. What do you mean, something important? Her voice rose with indignation. What could possibly be more important than helping your family? Especially after everything we've done for you. My medical volunteer mission to Greece, I replied calmly, taking a deliberate sip of water, and watching their expressions transform from confusion to utter disbelief. Greece? Amber's laughter echoed through the cafe. A volunteer mission? You're not seriously choosing some random foreigners over your own family. I pulled up the official acceptance letter on my phone and placed it on the table. Actually, I am. 2 weeks with international medical volunteers, providing emergency care to refugee families on the Greek islands, starting the exact day you leave for Florida. But you can't. Mom sputtered, her face flushing with anger. What about my follow-up appointment? What about the dogs? The pet sitter canceled on us. That sounds like poor planning on your part. I was surprised by how steady my voice remained despite my pounding heart. Maybe Amber's husband Ethan could watch them, since he's apparently family enough to be included in your anniversary celebration. That's completely different, Amber protested, her perfectly manicured hand clutching her designer handbag. Ethan is my husband. Besides, he's allergic to dogs, and he has important investment meetings that week. How convenient. I stood up, gathering my belongings, feeling strangely liberated. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always do when something matters enough to you. Vanessa, sit down right now, Dad ordered with unusual firmness. This isn't like you. You're being completely irrational and selfish. That's exactly the problem, isn't it? I felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. You all decided long ago who I was supposed to be: reliable Vanessa, dependable Vanessa, always available Vanessa. Did it ever occur to any of you that I might want to be included in family celebrations? That I might have my own calling, my own purpose beyond being your medical consultant and dog sitter? The silence around the table was deafening. Mom's eyes welled with tears of indignation, while Amber sat with her mouth hanging open in shock. Dad simply stared into his coffee cup, refusing to meet my gaze. I need to go, I said, heading for the door with my heart hammering in my chest. I have medical supplies to pack. There are refugee children who need actual emergency care, not just someone to watch their pets while they enjoy spa treatments. The fallout came swiftly and fiercely, just as I'd anticipated. Mom launched a full-scale emotional assault that would have impressed military strategists. Within hours, she had mobilized every family connection at her disposal. Aunt Betty called, her voice quivering with righteous indignation, to lecture me about family duty and how nursing is supposed to be a caring profession. Uncle Jim sent a stern email about respecting your mother after all she's been through. Even Grandma Crawford weighed in via a confused voicemail, wondering why I couldn't bandage those poor foreign people right here while watching Dana's puppies. The family text chain exploded with notifications, each one delivering another stab of guilt wrapped in concern. My phone vibrated so frequently I finally had to silence it, my heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and unexpected liberation. Amber's approach was more direct and dramatically public. She arrived at my house in her gleaming white Range Rover, pulling into my modest driveway, with such force that my elderly neighbor's cat fled in terror. Her designer heels clicked aggressively on my porch as she pounded on my door. You're choosing strangers over your own family? She demanded, pushing past me into my living room without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes were rimmed with red, though I couldn't tell if it was from genuine tears or carefully applied makeup. This isn't you, Vanessa. You've always been the dependable one, the one who puts family first. The dependable one? I felt my chest tighten with 15 years of suppressed frustration. You mean the convenient one. The nurse who drops everything when someone needs medical advice or free healthcare. The daughter who's expected to cancel her plans whenever mom has a hangnail or the dogs need sitting. That's completely unfair. Amber's voice rose dramatically. We absolutely appreciate everything you do. Mom literally tells everyone at church about her amazing nurse daughter. Really? I crossed my arms, steadying myself. When was the last time any of you showed genuine appreciation? When was the last time I was included in a family celebration instead of just being expected to handle the medical concerns and logistical hassles? Amber collapsed onto my couch, her perfectly styled blonde hair somehow remaining flawless despite her theatrical display of distress. We honestly didn't think you'd want to come to Florida. You're always working those long hospital shifts or doing those depressing clinic things with poor people. The casual dismissal of my entire career and passion struck me like a physical blow. Did you ask me? Did anyone even consider asking if I might want to join my family to celebrate our parents' anniversary? Well, no, but, she faltered, suddenly looking less certain. But nothing. You all made assumptions about my life, my time, my priorities. And you know what hurts the most? You didn't even try to hide these plans from me. You literally created a family chat group without me to discuss it. That's how little my feelings matter to all of you. Amber's perfectly contoured face flushed. Mom is beside herself with worry about her checkup results and medication schedule. Dad says they might have to cancel their anniversary trip if they can't find someone competent to manage her health needs and watch the dogs. That sounds like a them problem, I replied coldly, throwing back one of Amber's favorite dismissive phrases. The shock on her face was almost worth the years of being overlooked. When did you become so heartless? She whispered, eyes widening. You're a nurse, for God's sake. I'm not heartless. I'm just done being the family medical service and pet hotel. I pulled out my phone and showed her the International Medical Volunteers website, scrolling through photos of my previous missions. See this? There are people who actually value my medical skills, not just when it's convenient. I've saved lives in disaster zones. While you were posting swimsuit photos from Bali, Amber stared at the screen, her expression shifting from dismissal to reluctant surprise as she swiped through images of me working in field hospitals and refugee clinics. These are impressive. When did you start doing international relief work? 3 years ago, I said quietly. Right after I nursed mom through her illness and paid over $100,000 of her medical bills. Not that anyone remembered or noticed. The next family dinner was excruciating. Mom had transformed the dining room table into a medical supply exhibition, Cooper's special diet instructions, Molly's anxiety medication, their favorite toys, and a binder of her own health information were spread out like evidence in a trial where I stood accused of abandonment. The heart medication has to be administered precisely 12 hours apart, she emphasized, dramatically waving Cooper's prescription bottle. And Molly needs her anxiety blanket at bedtime, or she whimpers all night. No ordinary pet sitter will understand these complex medical needs. I'm sure a professional pet service will manage just fine, I replied, serving myself a small portion of roast chicken. That's literally what they're trained and paid to do. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Vanessa, we could compensate you for your time. Make it worth your while to postpone your volunteer thing. My confirmed medical mission position is worth far more than money, Dad. The flight alone was $2,800, and it's completely non-refundable, I said, feeling a strange calm despite the tension radiating around the table. Amber, who had been uncharacteristically subdued since her visit to my house, suddenly spoke up. I looked at Vanessa's volunteer profile on the IMV website. Did you know she's received 3 international commendations for her emergency medical work? Mom barely looked up from her meticulous arrangement of medication schedules. That's nice, dear. Now, about my blood pressure monitoring. No, Mom, I'm serious, Amber persisted, her tone surprisingly firm. Look at these photos from her Haiti mission last year. She pulled up the website on her phone. She literally helped deliver babies during a hurricane. For the first time that evening, Mom actually focused her attention directly on me, not through me. Not as an extension of her needs, but actually seeing me. You were in Haiti during that terrible storm? I've been to 8 countries on medical missions, I said quietly. I specialize in emergency obstetrics in crisis situations. I've delivered over 40 babies in disaster zones. I write protocols that other medical teams follow. People depend on my expertise to survive. Dad leaned forward to look at Amber's phone. These are incredible, Vanessa. You're saving lives in these photos. Why haven't you told us about this work? I did. At Christmas 3 years ago. You all changed the subject to Amber's new brand partnership with that fitness tea company. The silence that followed hung heavy with uncomfortable recognition. Mom set down Cooper's medication chart, her hands trembling slightly. We haven't really been paying attention to your life, have we? No, I said simply. You haven't. But that doesn't change the fact that I need someone who understands my complicated medical needs, she added quickly, the momentary self-awareness evaporating instantly. And the dogs require specialized care. I stood up, pushing my chair back with newfound determination. I'm going to Greece to provide emergency medical care to people who truly need it. Mom, with or without your blessing. Maybe it's time you all learned what it feels like when someone prioritizes strangers over your vacation plans. As my departure date for Greece approached, my family cycled through the 5 stages of grief with theatrical precision. Mom rocketed from stunned denial to righteous anger, calling me ungrateful and heartless in increasingly desperate voicemails. After everything I've done for you, became her rallying cry. Dad attempted clumsy bargaining, offering to set aside money for a proper vacation when I returned, suggesting we could plan a real Greek trip when it's more convenient for everyone. Amber's Instagram stories fluctuated between dramatic depression, posting throwback, family photos with captions like "Some people forget what family means," #heartbroken, and reluctant acceptance. Sometimes we take the wrong people for granted. Lessons learned. 2 days before my flight, Mom made one final, calculated attempt. She appeared at my front door clutching medical records and photo albums, her eyes rimmed with strategic tears. I invited her in despite the dread pooling in my stomach. You've always been such a natural caregiver, she said, flipping through pages of carefully selected photographs. Me checking Amber's temperature during her college flu, administering childhood vaccines to family pets, always in the responsible role. Remember when you stayed up 3 nights straight monitoring Amber's fever during that terrible influenza? You were only 17. My jaw tightened as the memory surfaced. I remember. I also remember missing my nursing school interview because of it, while Amber was well enough to attend her friend's beach party that same weekend. That was completely different. Mom dismissed with a wave of her hand. You didn't seem to mind back then. You've always been so good about putting family first. No, Mom, I said firmly, my voice surprisingly steady. I did mind. I've always minded. I just wasn't permitted to express it without being labeled selfish or difficult. She snapped the album shut with theatrical finality. Well, I hope you're satisfied with yourself. We've had to cancel our anniversary trip entirely. Ethan's investment meetings can't be rescheduled, and no professional service will take dogs with Cooper's medical complexities on such short notice. I didn't immediately respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. On display was an email exchange with Dr. Rivera, my retired pediatrician neighbor, confirming she'd care for Molly and Cooper during their trip, along with a detailed health monitoring plan for Mom. I arranged a solution weeks ago, I said calmly. Dr. Rivera is a retired physician who loves animals. She lives next door and has already met Molly and Cooper during their walks. She's agreed to check on them daily and monitor their medication schedule. I've also set up a remote health tracking system for your blood pressure that sends readings directly to my phone. Mom stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing wordlessly. But why would you let us worry like this? Why didn't you tell us immediately? I met her eyes directly. Because for once, I wanted all of you to experience what it feels like not having me as your automatic safety net, to understand how it feels when someone disrupts your carefully made plans without considering your needs or feelings. That's, she sputtered, genuine indignation replacing her calculated distress. That's downright vindictive, Vanessa. No, Mom, That's simply human. And maybe next time you're planning a family celebration, you'll remember this feeling and consider including your other daughter, the one who nursed you through serious illness and paid your medical bills when your insurance wouldn't. The morning of my departure, I awoke to a flurry of notifications. Mom had tagged me in a Facebook post, something she'd never done before. It featured a photo of me in my nursing scrubs receiving my hospital's Excellence Award, with a lengthy caption about how proud she was of her heroic daughter and how the whole family supports Vanessa's important humanitarian mission to help those poor refugees. Amber texted immediately. Oh, Mom's gone into full damage control mode. She's telling everyone at church she personally encouraged you to accept the medical mission because it's God's calling, #IRL. I wasn't surprised in the slightest. Public image had always been Mom's primary concern. She'd suddenly realized that having a daughter doing international medical relief work was something she could showcase at her community volunteer meetings. But her transparent attempt at retroactive support couldn't erase 15 years of dismissal and exploitation. Dad arrived at my house as I was loading my medical bags into the car. He awkwardly held a brand new professional-grade medical bag. Stop by the medical supply store, he said, extending the bag toward me. I remembered you mentioning that your old one was wearing out. This one's waterproof and has those special compartments for emergency supplies. The bag was exactly what I'd been saving for. Part of me wanted to refuse it, to demonstrate I didn't need their belated recognition. But the uncertainty in Dad's eyes revealed something I'd rarely seen: genuine regret and a sincere desire to connect. Thanks, Dad, I said, accepting his gift. Want to see the emergency protocols I developed for the refugee camp? He sat with me for over an hour, actually listening as I explained triage procedures and emergency childbirth techniques. He asked thoughtful questions and even downloaded the IMV Supporter app on his phone. You know, he said hesitantly as he was preparing to leave, I canceled my part of the resort reservation. Told your mother and sister to go without me. Dad, you didn't need to. Yes, I did, he interrupted firmly. Someone needs to properly help Dr. Rivera with the dogs and your mother's checkups. He paused at the door, his hand resting on the frame. Plus, I want to follow your mission updates. Maybe you could show me how to use that volunteer support forum when you get back. That afternoon, as I settled into my seat on the flight to Athens, my phone buzzed with final messages. Amber had sent a surprisingly genuine, "Be safe over there, V. Show those refugee kids what a Crawford woman can do." Mom had texted detailed instructions for remotely monitoring her blood pressure readings, still missing the fundamental point, but at least acknowledging my medical expertise. But it was Dad's simple message that brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Just made my first donation to your medical team supply fund. Hope it helps. Remember to take care of yourself while you're taking care of everyone else. Love, Dad. I gazed out the airplane window at the shrinking landscape below, reflecting on how sometimes it takes a dramatic stand to shake people from their deeply entrenched patterns. My family had spent 15 years casting me as the reliable supporting character in their self-centered narrative. Perhaps now they'd finally recognized I was the protagonist of my own life story, one that extended far beyond their limited understanding of who I was meant to be. The Greek island medical mission exceeded even my highest expectations. Each morning, I woke before dawn to help set up our makeshift clinic, working alongside dedicated professionals from around the world. My emergency obstetric skills were put to immediate use within the first 3 days. I had delivered 2 babies in our basic field hospital and stabilized a mother with severe postpartum hemorrhage. The challenging conditions demanded every bit of my training and ingenuity, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive in my profession. My social media updates about the mission garnered unexpected attention, but what truly surprised me were the responses from my family. Dad commented on every medical update, his messages evolving from simple, "Proud of you, honey," to thoughtful questions about refugee healthcare challenges and supply shortages. He even organized a fundraiser among his retired engineer friends, raising enough to purchase a portable ultrasound machine for our clinic. Amber, astonishingly, shared my post with her substantial Instagram following, tagging me with captions like, "My sister is literally saving lives," while I'm posting breakfast photos. Hash real hair sister, a remarkable shift from her usual self-promotion and subtle competition. Mom, however, took a different approach. She called daily with dramatized health concerns, as if determined to remind me of my abandoned family duties. My blood pressure seems awfully high today, she'd report. Or, Cooper won't take his medicine unless your father crushes it in ice cream. When these medical guilt trips failed to gain traction, she pivoted to critiquing my work. Don't you think you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk? And that refugee camp looks terribly unsanitary. Are you sure you've had all your vaccinations? One evening, as I was finishing an emergency catering section in our field hospital, I received an unexpected text from Dr. Rivera. Your mother has visited 3 times today. She wrote, her amusement evident even in text form. She brings elaborate homemade treats for the dogs and interrogates me about my medical credentials. I believe she's struggling with not being the center of your attention. I'm so sorry for the intrusion, I replied during my brief break, but Dr. Rivera quickly responded. Not at all. I informed her that after 45 years of pediatric practice, including 5 years with Doctors Without Borders, 2 small dogs, and a healthy woman's basic vitals present no challenge whatsoever. She seemed rather deflated by that. That same night, Dad sent a private message that made me smile despite my exhaustion. Your mother checked herself into a spa resort for the remainder of their Florida trip. Claims she's too worried about her health being unsupervised to enjoy the beach. Amber is livid about the change of plans. I felt a momentary twinge of guilt, quickly replaced by a sense of empowerment, as I recalled countless holidays, birthdays, and personal milestones I'd sacrificed to accommodate my family's demands. Mom's decision to sabotage her own vacation was her choice, not my responsibility. Instead of apologizing or cutting my mission short, I doubled down on my commitment. I shared more stories from the refugee camp, the pregnant mother, who walked 7 miles through dangerous terrain to reach our clinic, the premature twins we stabilized long enough for transport to Athens, the elderly man whose decades-old shrapnel wound we finally treated properly. The response was overwhelming. Healthcare workers worldwide commented with support and encouragement. The director of International Medical Volunteers asked me to develop a training protocol for emergency obstetrics in crisis situations. Amber called between patient rounds, sounding genuinely animated. My followers are completely obsessed with your medical mission stories. Several brands have actually reached out asking how they can support refugee healthcare causes. Can you believe it? Her voice softened uncharacteristically. You know what's weird? I always thought I was the courageous one with my influencer career and exotic travels. But you're the one doing something that actually matters. You've been making a real difference all this time, and we were too self-absorbed to notice. On my final night in Greece, as I packed my medical supplies, I received a surprising email from Mom with an attached photo. She had transformed a wall in our family home with framed news clippings and printouts of my humanitarian medical work spanning back years. I found all these in your filing cabinet, she wrote. I had everything professionally framed and mounted. Your father says they deserve more prominence than my volunteer award plaques. Below that was an addendum that made me pause. I've had considerable time to reflect while you've been away. Walter pointed out something quite uncomfortable, that we've taken your medical expertise and dependability for granted for so long that we forgot you have a calling beyond family assistance. I've never been adept at apologies, but I'm attempting to demonstrate that I recognize my errors. Dr. Rivera sent daily updates with photos showing Molly and Cooper thriving, without Mom's helicopter pet parenting. The final image showed Dad and Dr. Rivera discussing medical volunteer opportunities for retirees, with the dogs peacefully napping nearby. Amber's final Florida resort photos reflected a subtle shift in perspective. Trying to find meaning beyond the perfect selfie, she captioned a sunset image. My sister's work has me questioning what really matters. #personal growth, #still learning. Something fundamental had changed during those 2 weeks. My family remained imperfect. Mom still sent daily health updates with thinly veiled manipulation. Dad still struggled with technology, and Amber still occasionally slipped into performative virtue signaling. But they were making genuine efforts to evolve. Sometimes that's the most you can realistically hope for. Not a complete transformation, but a sincere willingness to see beyond their own limited perspectives. 6 months after the Greek mission, we gathered for my hospital's annual healthcare excellence ceremony, where I was receiving recognition for developing emergency obstetric protocols. To my astonishment, my entire family attended. The hospital walls display photographs of our medical team's work alongside traditional healthcare heroes. Mom had even commissioned custom lapel pins with the International Medical Volunteers logo for the family to wear, a small gesture that represented significant growth. "We have something to share with you," Mom announced during the reception. "We've been planning something special as a family." I steeled myself for disappointment, but Amber quickly continued. "Before you make that face, we want you to be central to the planning process. Your refugee mission inspired so many people. We thought maybe you could guide our family towards something meaningful." Dad produced a folder filled with printouts. "I've been researching medical volunteer opportunities in rural Italy where families can contribute. Thought perhaps you could teach us how regular people might support healthcare professionals in underserved communities." And, Mom added, attempting casual nonchalance but unable to hide her pride, "Dar Rivera has already agreed to join us as a medical consultant. We've been discussing collaborative approaches to community healthcare for months." I looked around at my family members, truly saw them for who they were becoming. Mom, still controlling but channeling her organizational skills toward worthwhile causes. Dad, discovering purpose in supporting medical outreach. Amber, beginning to recognize the hollow nature of her curated online existence. "Italy sounds perfect," I said, pulling out my tablet to show them the rural clinic contacts I'd already established. "But this time, we approach it as equals, each contributing our unique strengths." "Wouldn't dream of anything else," Dad smiled, resting his hand on my shoulder. "With genuine respect. After all, you're the one who showed us what real impact looks like."